You're okay,
Oh.
my computer is dying. My computer's dying.
Sorry, folks, I was late this morning. My patient is a little more high maintenance than I expected.
We almost got it.
And I almost got hit by a train, that's the second story. Anyways, so my heart's going a little fast right now. So, wanted to follow up on the, meeting you guys had with Scott Moransky on Tuesday.
Yes, Marty and I met with Scott and Martha Quinn. Maureen.
Yeah.
And CDFA. We did the entire tour. I did it on one knee. And we think and talked a lot about not only the physical part project, but the land tech portion of it also, which they were involved in, and also what's going on in general in Franklin and in downtown. And of course, they've been a partner in a lot of stuff with them. They were very impressed. As a matter of fact, the meeting went on after the walk quite a while, just talking about what's going on in Franklin. At that point, I had to tell them that that despite our need to get this done, there was a high possibility that we don't need their money, because we hope to hear officially very soon about the $2.5 million of HUD money. Marty and I met separately. You want to talk about that? But anyway, they came back. We did ask the question, if we think the project's going to cost over 2.5, say 2.6, because of the wild card of the environmental review. That could we reduce our request, our pending request of 500 net to like 100 net, which would be 125. So that's their 20%. No,
That's right.
and they saw right through, as I warned, as you talked before, they saw right through us. They said, well, I love these new bureaucrats. What about the capital stack? We didn't use that language. So this is news as you would it. They're like I was saying anything in front of the mirror. So, they said, we talked about land and water, we said, they can't participate because they can only supplement to 80% of the cost. So they said, well, you've already earmarked $300,000 in TIF for this project, so if you're going to go over budget, you can use TIF. I turned to them and I said, I thought you say that, but sorry on that. So we left it.
I'm glad they're that kind of partner that's smart.
They are, that's right. And besides, we don't want to get pissed off if we're talking about going to next year for some money for the outfit.
Right.
So, it was a good meeting.
I mean, they did understand that we wanted to use the TIF on the Opera House and not on the Whitewater Park, so I don't think that especially because we were talking about the Opera House a few different times. I mean, they got it.
Yeah.
Right, so I don't think it would be a major ask if we hear back, or when we hear back from Pete, and the environmental reviewer. I don't think it would be a problem to go for a smaller ask, but the problem will be timing. They need to know soon.
Right.
So,
And I still haven't heard from HUD yet.
No.
So this is on the additional money for the study if we need it?
Yeah, right, if we need it.
Marty and I disagree on that. think to preserve, well, we don't, Marty and I disagree, we'd have to talk about that.
Strategy on that, yeah.
No, not Marty and I, that's for the audience, Marty and I never disagree.
Not as-
So, we also met,
flag just down.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Seth and I disagree a lot. We also met, Marty and I also did have a work session on the budget. And we updated the construction cost to today's, very detailed update. We built some more contingencies in construction costs. And the wild card is whether the environmental reviews are gonna cost $10,000 or $50,000. So we have to get that answered. I still think there's some flexibility in the budget. Mobilization doesn't have to be paid twice. That doesn't mean it's at cost, but it doesn't have to be paid twice. So there's some flexibility, but we really can't do anything until we know what the environmental piece is going to cost.
When will we know that?
Pete has called 3 different times. He just got knee surgery last week.
Yes.
So we left him alone, but he's now working part-time right now. He's called 3 times, but he has yet to receive a call back, and he suspects it's because HUD hasn't filed the paperwork to create the project on their end. So if the project isn't in the queue, I don't think HUD is allocating hours to it.
So thoughts, should I be reaching out to Senator Sheen's office?
Did we talk about that last week?
We did,
Yeah, we said hold on.
we said hold off, but at this point,
I want to wait another week.
Yeah, when we met with Todd the first time, he said it was going to be like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's not,
it hasn't been.
no, it's been 2.
I did have another thought.
Jumping the gun.
Yeah.
Well, not since we've known. All right, you're
Since we
right.
met with Todd, he said it was
Yeah.
4 to 6 weeks. It's been 2.
Yeah.
Marty, I think Brad, George, I think that you could have a conversation with Peter that says to this effect, his opening salvo with HUD EPA officer should be something to the effect that our permits expire, I thought you said May 24, but May 25.
It's May 25.
You know, the sooner we get in the bidder, in the water, the more likely we are to come in that budget. And, just the idea that our permits expire in May should be as introductory salvo, I think.
I understand, but if you're an overworked government agency and someone's called you in like 3 voicemails and you have a personal relationship with them, you'd call them back if you could. Right? This person has known Pete for 20 years.
Yeah.
No, you're saying when the time comes.
When the time,
I'm not saying
when
that.
the time,
I'm saying again, don't
yeah, well, there is another way to, I don't know, she's been there for a long time.
Yes.
And she probably worked for the former couple of administrations ago, director of EPA, which was Taylor Caswell.
No, David was, before CDFA?
Yeah,
You sure?
he was the regional director of EPA in Boston.
I did not know that.
We keep that back.
Yeah. I mean, I can relay that to people. I mean, he's smart and he has connections. I mean, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
He doesn't need us to show him on this.
Okay. So that just pushes, so if it's 4 to 6 weeks, that's just gonna push me bringing it to the city council off to June.
So when we met with Ted Trippy from Sheen's office, it was on the 3rd of this month. Yeah. So we're 3 weeks in, we're halfway there.
Yeah.
I do think, give it another week, we hit that 4-week mark, say 4 to 6 weeks. At the end of the 4 weeks, let's reach out to Ted and say, hey man, Have you heard it?
Yeah.
It's been 4 weeks. and it's like-
See what his recommendation is.
Yeah.
That sounds good, they'd be patient.
In anticipation, can't you take it to the city council now?
No, I think that
You know you
I
would.
would have to have the paperwork at least from HUD.
Yeah, 'cause right now, there's no grant.
Right.
There's no paperwork trail.
Right.
There's just verbal.
There's their,
Nice.
Senator Shaheen hasn't even done the press release yet, so.
And this council has been informed.
Oh, they're.
And this is all happening, we're just waiting for the next part, so we're still waiting for that next part.
But, yeah, I mean, the budget passed and we were in it. So
Yeah.
there's a paper trail, I guess, just not a grant award.
Exactly.
Scott Maslansky is just, I think he's sort of,
I don't think I've met him
he
before.
used to do the energy program.
Oh, yes, I have met him.
He's very bureaucratic.
What's that? He still does. Yeah.
He's-
Oh, he still does the energy program? Gotcha.
So and I think he was assigned to this because he's a kayaker himself.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I don't know, but
He helped us with our streetlight project.
he did.
Yeah.
So he was asking a lot of questions, which have been answered over and over again either in the application or in the annual report which we just submitted. The final report, the first, including, can we get documentation, of what the economic impact is today? And all we have is, what's the word I want to use? Word of mouth. We know during Winning River Days last year, the Irish Water Horse told us that their sales were up 50% and, could not, big deal. I mean, that's not empirical, citywide study. But I did point out to them, I hate it when you spend all the time writing this application. That we said day one, and we said in our most recent report, that once it's fully, the real test of the water park is when it's fully done. So you have that competitive competitions as well as that. And two, probably 2 or 3 years in, when it had a stabilized operating year, and that we had committed to try to get Plymouth State, one of their entities, come down and do a full-fledged economic.
Right.
It's too early to do it.
Right.
And that's all on
Get
paper,
the
and they just,
Yeah.
he didn't get it. The second thing he asked for, he was getting ready for his presentation to the board.
Right.
Of course. He's
And-
trying to predict what questions are gonna be asked
Right.
from the grant committee to him.
Right.
And have us answer them.
Exactly.
And what's the impact on disadvantaged youth, okay? And Marty was very good at that, but then he said, look, can you write that down, send me an email? But it's not, it's a good question, and we do address it very briefly in the application, because they ask a question like that, we just give some examples.
Yeah.
But to me, Marty told the story of, tell the story,
Which one? The free program?
the one that's the drug task force? or-
Yeah, so the drug task force raised money to create a free program for 5 students for 4 sessions, so 20 kids overall. This year, they'll go through, and those 20 kids will pay $0 to learn everything over the course of 5 different days. Learn everything there is to know about the wave, how to self-arrest, how to save someone else, how to surf. And then the coolest thing that Stephanie Wolf wanted to do is, and we had hashed this out and been trying to do it for a while, but it never really made sense, was create a gear library. So these kids get a certificate and they can come borrow gear 100% free for them whenever they want. So it's like a library card, which will be great. And so there's like 3 of those examples, right? The Franklin Parks and Rec thing a couple of years ago, the 50 kids got to do it for free. So
I have suggested to Marty
he wants me to write all this.
when he has the time, we should, either Marty should do it, or we should find some money to have, and maybe Mr. Aberg's organization, help us, to find some money to, get somebody from Cookson, something like that, spend half a day and just write up a 1 or 2 pages.
Yeah.
I don't think people know about it. You know, we all talk about bringing spenders in from the outside, you know, and the revitalization aspects. But I don't think we talk enough about what this opportunity for outdoor recreation means in general, and to kids especially, and what we're doing. So, we ought to put that on the agenda.
We should. All right. Is that it on that? Okay, so I just wanted to report that I did let Bill Geegas know at Land and Water Conservation Fund that we will be withdrawing our application because of the HUD award. He thought that that was very respectful of us to do, which was our plan. So, so he's turning to us, finishing our final paperwork on the 2 grants that we have open right now. So, and he's looking forward to us approaching him in the future regarding the land portion of the park, which they're very interested in helping us with as well. So that piece is done, so you and I are gonna have to finish that grant stuff.
When's the next round open?
I started mine, but I'm not done.
Around March next year.
March next year.
Let's see, I thought it was twice.
No, that one's only once a year.
They did twice a year, but then they had some extra money from, not ARPA, but CARES, I think, or right before, they did do a second round, but I don't think that they usually do
Yeah, you know, it's really early on, but I think the project that we want to do is to build the pump track,
Yeah.
right, and build the road,
Yeah.
the safety road, safety connection to the path that the chief wants.
Yeah.
I think we can get that entire thing donated, and that could be our match for the pump track.
Nice, nice.
But the pump track's still like $300,000 project.
But there's a lot of youth looking forward to that because our skateboard park could really be demolished, and that would take over for it. And that's what they all want to use now anyway. I was just by the Laconia one again.
Yeah, it's
You know,
packed.
it was like 34 degrees out and it's packed, so yeah.
Okay, the same.
Yeah.
We walked, go ahead.
If you use an asphalt top instead of dirt, you can do BMX bikes, mountain bikes, scooters, and skateboards. So
It's that
then it's
bowl thing that they all like
multi-purpose.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ours isn't a 100% bowl, but it has, it's called a volcano. It's a vertical element that simulates a bowl that you can drop in on 3 sides, so it's pretty.
I know planners and friends, 2 separate people that are in the Keene area. Keene has a pump track that they pull safe in.
Yeah, Aberg did that one, and that's a company that builds trails. It was a guy who worked over at Highland that went out on his own. He's the one building trails up at yeah.
Nice.
It's a good one over there too.
Yeah, it's utilized, which is perfect.
You can ride like a 30-year-old or 18-year-old can ride at the same time as a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Right, there's like an inner and outer track, and so it's very dynamic.
Right, that's one of the guys I know goes with this kid who's like 10, and he's like, yeah, there's like professionals out there at the same time as us for the eye, so it's crazy.
When we walked with the CDFA folk up to, not all the way to the upside down bridge, but up to the point where Feature One would be located.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a neat way, it's a neat way to do it because you can see some of the stuff you've done in the park. And we told the story about all the volunteer labor, materials that went into the
Timber frame
the
pavilion.
pavilion. And I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It was just, we told a good story. They know what's going on. Franklin's clearly.
It's been a good partner for the beginning. I'm surprised they didn't push you guys off because of the snowstorm, they weren't able to award their current round of stuff. because it was on the day of the snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
And they haven't rescheduled that yet, so, we have a project, or the city has a project, through Franklin Woods in that round that's being recommended for the grant, so. Yeah, so that's good, I'm glad they were here. Anything else on that?
Sort of, just thinking ahead to March, if March is the next step, if we're gonna target the land-based portion, which is what we're here, let's do something else besides the kayakers. I'm looking at an email that came in this morning from UH Cooperative Extension, and Monday, May 4th, Cooperative Extension is coming to Franklin, the Great Plains, for us to do some managing volunteer trail work projects, knowledge sharing, and a work day in Franklin. So they're gonna have trail experts basically come here and teach folks who are in attendance, you know, proper trail construction and that sort of thing. And then on June 5th in Concord, the Cooperative Extension, through their new program DIRT, developing interconnections for regional trails, which they are hammering Franklin. They love Franklin right now. They want us all involved in that. You know.
Yes.
So I think those two things, once, like, let's keep those in our mind and in our notebooks as pieces that we worked on up until the March application, and we prefer to, hey, you know, not only are we well versed in this stuff, but we've also had corporate extension come join us with this and this.
Right. So the DIRT initiative came from the Franklin Foothills. I go to those meetings. There's a panel on your June 5th meeting. Jada Bloom, who runs the program, invited me over, so I'll be on that panel.
Okay.
And then the reason they selected veterans is because of the NEMBA connection. And so but the Foothills Foundation, which is another nonprofit spearheaded by Mark Hayes about regional trail development, that organization is like what Mill City Park was in 2015 or 16, both like disjointed, a lot of like do-gooders, people who were volunteering, but it didn't have as much traction until Cooperative came. So Jada instantly got on the board, right? And so, you know, the only better example of all this stuff is the Borderlands, right? The 7 trail systems from Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, and Canada in the North Country. And so this is a much more achievable example of what they're trying to do. So, you know, the Foothills is partnered with Cooperative Extension for all of their resources, but Cooperative Extension is using the foundation, the Foothills Foundation, to like showcase these things. So it's all interconnected.
Are they still looking at Franklin as the hub of a trail system?
I'm speaking probably out of turn. I go to the meetings, but I'm not like on the board driving it. But I mean, it's Mark Hayes' baby, right? And so Mark developed all the free trails outside of Highland. So like now there's, I don't know, maybe 8 miles that anyone can go up there and ride, and you don't have to buy a ticket. And then the goal is to get that trail system over to the Winnie River Trail, right? And then for us to do our river trail to Northern Rail connection with it.
Yep.
And so the organization from a strategy perspective is, you know, the bike umbrella company that we've been talking about forever.
Yep.
And Franklin is really the only town, or excuse me, city, right, downtown within the network, right? So it would be great for the community, great interconnectivity, you know, great for branding.
Marketing and promoted that way.
Absolutely. And so, so the connection with Cooperative Extension is really important, right? And for us to keep providing opportunities for them to use us as examples is perfect.
Seth and I are doing something with Co-op Extension
That's right.
on the 29th.
Yeah, so their economic development segment of co-op, if you guys remember, they came here a couple years ago and did like a midday tour, and they They had lunch here, so we're actually from different counties.
Sure.
And then the leads at UNH that oversee all the co-op, and the UNH president was even there, and we shot at.
Last time, yeah.
Like last time.
Yeah.
So they're doing it again, and they want to come back to Franklin. I think that's on the 29th,
29.
Monday in a couple weeks, not next Monday, the Monday after. And they're kind of doing their own thing, and they said we want, they asked Judie and I if we could step in at around 12:30, I think.
12:45
And
to
give them,
1:45.
yeah, give them about an hour. Just kind of like last time, so we're super laid back, we're just a chatty group, we're gonna ask random questions, and we wanna get out and walk the community and see some of the successes. And they said last time we were here, Schindberg wasn't done, it was kind of just barely starting, so they wanna see that. And they wanna see the wave, and they wanna see what downtown looks like now, so. Yeah.
Should we try to coordinate something with Schindberg?
Yeah, I think I'll reach out to their leasing agent, because she'll know,
Yeah,
they will know which apartments are open, and we'll get it for a quick tour for something different.
The city manager's department should be open still.
I thought somebody rented that one.
Someone did rent it.
Yeah.
Very
I understand
irritating.
that all the 2 bedrooms are gone.
Yes,
I heard that.
yeah, they're all gone.
What's the percentage lease up? Last I saw was 80,
I think it's 85.
85?
85%.
I think there's only studios left,
Oh my God.
I think. Yep.
If it's only studios left, then it's probably 185.
Yeah, as of last week, one of the reps from Schindberg said there were 100 leased units, so that was 53 left. Some of those aren't even finished yet, so they can't really lease them. They don't want to put them out there for leasing. They said at that point that not all 100 were occupied, but some will be moving in a couple months or something like that. But we still see it. We all see it every day.
Oh, yeah, the U-Hauls are fun. Must be a little difficult right now with the front facade being,
Yeah,
That's gonna be
Yeah.
nice though.
yeah, it's gonna be
With
real
months.
sweet, but it
Yeah.
looks tough moving in
I,
right now.
I wouldn't want
Yeah.
to discount on my rent until that's finished.
Yeah.
I was working with a company that was looking for space and contacted Schindberg on commercial space,
Mhm.
and he was told they have only 5,000 left.
Really, of commercial space?
5,000 square feet?
Yeah.
In the finished building, where they all have different addresses now, but it's 50 Canal Street or Building D, it's where Kettlehead is.
Right, right.
So that's.
They have that on the Silicon End?
Yeah.
Wow,
Nice.
that's 35,000 square feet.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's really good.
That is really good.
32,000 square feet.
I think
Nice.
the last unit is the one in the front and closest to the building they're working on now,
Yeah,
in that corner.
Oh, that was a nice space.
yeah.
It's just odd shaped, it's like a big L.
Might be, when you walk into so Kettlehead, if you walk into Kettlehead's on your right immediately, on your left, there's a chunk there that I think is open too.
Okay.
It actually, it says a bunch of windows that look out to the courtyard and back.
So then the other commercial space is the front building and the three-story.
The mid-rise, we call it, the one that's all ripped apart right now.
Yep.
Yeah, so when you look at it from the front, from the street, we would call it the basement, you can't really see it, but if you walk around, it's a walkout, so they call it their first floor level. That level there, that lower level is residential, it's apartments. All the rest of it will be commercial space. And that, right now, they're doing all their main trunk lines, with heat, AC, plumbing. Windows, roof.
Yeah.
They have the J Rose hair salon that has been there for a while. She's moving to a new spot, and she's almost done her spot, so she's the first tenant that's revised everything up. All the rest are sort of hopping around. Yeah. So there will be more space for like offices or hair salons, and like those smaller sort of uses. I mean, or someone can get creative and say, yeah, I want to take half the floor, and they'll give them half the floor if they need to.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, that's good news.
Just
Going back to education, I was on a different panel yesterday with LRCC, and Belknap FBIDC was there. It was like a Lakes Region thing. Andrew Hosmer was there. There was a bunch of Carmen Gifford. And the assistant forget his title, assistant head of school, or Patrick Kate from LRCC was talking about all that, the work experience learning that they're doing now. And he's excited to try to get something back to Franklin. We had something for a while with that group. At the same time, we had Colby Sawyer College in Bloom State. But he's, I think, fairly new there. And they're predicting, which was interesting to hear, they know that college-age kids in New Hampshire, because of aging demographics, is going to drop off the board, like he said, in 2 to 3 years. Numbers are going to go way down, and they've been down since COVID. So that would be interesting to know what our school's doing about that. But,
It's the 911 generation.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
so then he was saying the shift that they're seeing is in work programs, right? Real training, and it doesn't have to be like, when we say work programs, it's not, it doesn't have to be like blue collar, like certificate programs. They're seeing it even in like, graphic design or, whatever. Instead of going to 4-year degrees, they're seeing more and more certificate programs where people can get quick education, try to become a subject matter expert in something or on their way and get a job really, really quickly. And so this generation is super scared of debt. They're worried about the status of the country, and they want a good paying job, and they're better savers than the previous decades. So better savers. 'Cause
Well,
they're
they
growing
watched
up
their
in this-
parents in the recession,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Less debt.
Yep.
And then the rhetoric now, right, these loan funds he talked about, or loan forgiveness programs, and, how that's being politicized, and it's just dissuading people from going to 4-year degree schools. So he
When the
really
trades can
wants
make
to.
6 figures right out of the gate.
That's the
Yeah.
whole point. I-
Yeah.
So you heard me on the
So he really wants to try to put the pieces together for something in Franklin.
So like classes or a capstone project, kind of like they did before?
Yeah, they're extremely flexible and open to just about anything. And he was singing the praises of the culinary program. I guess that culinary program puts out more professionals into the field than even the Hewitt Center does with automotive.
The culinary program at Lake Street.
LRCC.
Yeah.
It's
They're open
award-winning,
on
yes.
Tuesdays for lunch, by the way, I want to try it.
You mean Lake Street Community College?
Yeah,
Yes.
LRCC. Lake Street Community
Right
College.
on.
Looking at their website right now, and that's, so they list all their programs, and certificate, their programs under both degrees and certificates, so that culinary arts, you pick degree or certificate,
Yeah.
they have a ton of like variety here.
Yeah.
Early childhood education, computer information systems,
They have-
it's all over the
Yeah.
place, business management.
Are they reaching out to individuals, industries, and working with them, targeted programs?
Only in the Lakes region.
Oh,
So he
That's
views their role.
It's like
because I know Vitech is talking to Lake Street Community College about
Yes.
doing targeted programs.
Yeah, I'm sure that they would do it.
That's the trouble. I mean, every community college has a blue chip program. No, it has a blue chip program, a different blue chip program. So if you live in Berlin and you want to get culinary, you gotta go to Lakes.
the Lakes region, right?
If you live in Lakes region and want to get physical therapy, you gotta go to,
Strata.
no, the one in, they have huge physical therapy. In
He
Claremont,
talked
Oh.
about that stuff.
they have advanced degrees.
There's certainly some of the specialization, but what their goal is to provide the training gap, the workforce gap between the residents of their area and the employers of their area. So there is some of that, right?
And Lakes
From
region's
Berlin to-
tourism, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if,
It was pretty cool. I'll be talking to him about.
That's where I got my motorcycle license. Just-
Those programs should be well
The
received.
parking.
Because that's the number one pitch I hear from both Vitech, is the gap between skills needed and the skills available
Right.
Yeah.
on workers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's super similar to the program Joe was running with the German Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost the exact same thing, just like the, this country state on how to do it, or this state.
I got two things.
Okay.
Well, I guess if you're talking to him again, he's got ideas on what he needs, like, does he need space, does he have some, let's see, connections to, try that, drag that out of him, or contact.
I mean, he drove that home. He needs businesses on one end to partner with to
Okay.
create the work experience.
Yeah.
And he, in a perfect world, he would want to create that where there's a gap, right? So the community college wants to be the person to educate, to fulfill, or help solve the problems that businesses are facing in that region. So it's a very localized approach, which is cool, but I mean, he gave examples of how, the culinary program floods Meredith, and a lot of the lake towns with professionals, right? Gives them work experience, but also he talked about the ball bearing company and aerospace, the manufacturing sector, and how they're getting degree programs out there for those students.
If they leave, I'll open that door and shut that door.
It was
Oh, I
good.
didn't even notice. Thank you.
It was really good. It was a lot of great connections.
Good. Cool. All right, Neil.
Yeah, as you know, the idea of patient capital,
Yes.
Oh, right.
a redevelopment fund, we did bring that up at CDFA, and they're challenged about, yeah, maybe we can work something out in terms of funding that kind of fund. So, I think, and just as background, it's the ability to get a line of credit, or whatever you wanna call it. I don't wanna call it a revolving loan fund yet, but a bunch of money that FBIDC is a local nonprofit can call on in one of two ways. It can call on it, when it wants to, when it's got a property that is key to purchase, and the bank says, okay, FBIDC, we'll give you, a 70% mortgage, so that they can call it, FBIDC could call on this fund to fill the 30% gap and buy a property that they don't necessarily do anything to, but hold for the right kind of developer, what we call highest and best use. The example of this, the obvious example of this, is any gateway property. And I'm gonna take the example of the Snell building. Franklin's changed having an auto dealer, an auto repair parts dealer, sitting at one of our gateways is not what we want to see. The same is true, by the way, of the existing CVS.
No,
Cumberland Farms, I'm sorry, Cumberland Farms.
yeah, that's.
So, I think what we'd like to do, CDFA is interested. Chuck, we've gone to CRDC in the past before you, and their position is treating it as an ordinary loan. We'll think about it, we'll take your big rates, and it's not a fast response. But what I'm thinking is convening CDFA, Community Loan Fund, DFA, and CRDC, and see if there's something we can do about putting this together. We're basically, what we do is a consortium fund that we give you a proposal, and we say we need an answer in 30 days, because we're gonna buy this building, and we think that we can flip it and turn it over, not for profit, but for covering our expenses and interest costs, etc. To a highest and best user that will be chosen through a public selection process. And, 6 months. And then we do the thing, we get it done, and we get a better user. There also might be another use is that you buy a building for almost nothing, because you can't get, it's so many problems. You say, we gotta put $100,000 in this building to get it ready for market, and then we'll do the same thing, find a higher guard.
I know what PCL did in the beginning.
Yeah,
but
yeah. But this would be more and more, mostly not one building at a time.
Right.
It's a de facto redevelopment authority without the statutory
Yeah.
authorities for redevelopment authority.
Yeah, we discussed this program on our
We've been
board
talking about this
meetings.
for a long time.
Yeah, but I mean to my board last Tuesday, and I think the funds, what we wanna do is have the funds in place, so if we have to pull the trigger at a $300,000, you know, we don't have to start the process. It's already been lined up with BFA or
Yeah.
a community loan fund.
And if it was 4 agencies doing it, they designated an agency, and we sent it the proposal, and say, you know, send us some check.
Right,
And, you know, we close, and they make mortgages and everything else.
right.
And BFA, a CDFA would want a performance mortgage, but that doesn't mean that the whole group couldn't have a performance mortgage at one. So,
We probably need a lead,
yeah, someone's got to lead it.
yeah, which I would,
Yeah.
BFA would be good.
You know, it could be, we'll see.
So you mean like BFA, Community Loan Fund, and CDFA would have one performance mortgage? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They could, or there could be one mortgage, but of a lead and assignable to 3 others.
Participated.
Participate.
Yeah.
So I think it's, I actually got a sense that we mentioned this as a future project for the city council meeting. And I got a sense that there was some interest in this. So if we put some meat on the bone and go back to the council in a few months and say, here, we're with it.
Right.
Once we have the conversation about how it's essentially, it's not a revolving loan fund, because that money, you know, can have other stipulations and come to the community and stand it. It's more like a line of credit that gets cleared after every property,
Right.
right, to the group, however the group is constructed. Everybody's,
We don't need custody of the funds.
right,
Right,
So
exactly.
that we don't want to pay interest on it, or, you know, it sits in some bank account and controlled by the grantor lenders. And, but we draw on it when we need it, and when we're repaying, we repay the loan, and with interest and whatever.
And I'm just a little bit real quick, 'cause I'm not super familiar with this, but I've heard it before, like land banking,
Well, yeah, it is like land banking.
right?
I mean, it could be used for a key piece of land.
Yeah.
There's no other buildings. Where there's some sense that we gotta get away from letting speculation and people buying properties to depreciate them on their tax rolls. You know, generally out-of-state people say, oh, here's a community that's got, you know, opportunity zone, financing, other kinds of financing. He says, we're going to buy this building, you know, continue to appreciate it, you know.
we know that we have, you know, one who has many properties in the downtown and has yet to spend $1 to fix anything up.
Right.
Meanwhile, right, his investments are doubling. Right?
Sure.
Don't need speculation. Especially, I mean, I just have this vision of Gateway, you know, and, anyway. The second thing I had to bring up,
I'm just gonna throw this in, because I'm a car guy.
Oh, here we go.
It's very cool, and there's very successful communities that, you know, Sunel can come to a different location. They don't need to be on, they don't need that giant space, they literally have to, they don't need that giant space.
Right.
But to keep an automotive parts supply in place or a hardware store downtown is really cool. Like, you can walk downtown and get your car parts, or I'm gonna sandwich and grab your car right in the store.
that's okay,
I just wanna make sure that
but
we're all.
that's a.
It's not a gateway, that's all.
No, I totally agree, that property is very far below its highest and best use right now. It's got so much more potential than what it is. It's a warehouse with a very small showroom account.
Yeah,
that could go in.
Right now, they're using it as a distribution center, not necessarily for the people coming through the front door, but
Right.
For the warehouse.
warehousing, which they don't
We
need.
use it, yeah.
You should go see Mr. Ordway, he can show you the old fire trucks that they're storing over there.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you'd like that.
We love that.
Yeah, go down in the
Just go see
basement.
him, he's super
I
nice.
think
Stop there.
you have to stop by and inspect it.
Yeah. You're scared of those salesmen.
The second thing I
Yeah.
had, Judy, is, Elchin. This is a long way away, but
Yeah.
we've talked in general, and Seth brought it up the other night, about whether or not we can use Elchin for the Opera House / City Hall. It's eligible. I don't know if there's any question about that.
Yeah.
All we need, additionally, all we need to do is hire, and maybe we already have one on board with the architect, a historic consultant who can, define its relationship to, how it's a contributing building to the historic district. Well, obviously it is. Okay? But the difficulty in the whole thing is that, any rehab done, must be guided by a qualified preservation plan, prepared by a preservation professional, and all improvements must be consistent with and approved with the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for historic preservation.
So that increases the project cost by.
That could increase the project cost.
So how do we know the break-even point? Because it's not worth it
Yes,
if
we
it.
need to talk about this.
Yeah.
You should talk to the architect, because the building will have to do, it'll have to go through the NEPA process, which will require the historic, survey permit.
Yeah.
And so you might already have to meet those guidelines even without.
No, you don't. You only have to meet the Secretary of Interior's guideline if you're using, if you're contributing building or on the actual list of properties and seeking, for instance, tax credit. Stevens Hill had to use it, had to go through those. Did not.
You go.
No. So my question is, historically, developers will tell you, they shy away from, using historic tax credits. The reason Eric has done it is because he built the model. And when it comes to historic tax credits, one of the big things is, windows. So, he's got the same windows on here as he's got 10, 20 other, you know, he met the test 20 years ago, so he knows what he's doing. But the big question is, are we making architectural changes, which is what they're interested in? You know, a lot of it is just, building systems,
Yeah.
mechanical, electrical, and everything else.
Right. Yeah.
But you still have to, prepare a qualified preservation plan, but you don't necessarily have to meet any standards. If you have to meet standards, that could skyrocket. It usually does.
Yeah.
And that's why developers, other than Eric, or those that have really done a lot of it, on a big project,
Right.
shy away from the state preservation office here.
Mhm. Makes sense.
So we gotta get a handle on that. But as currently designed, there is a new, quote-unquote, new building, right?
Mhm.
Attached to the existing city hall. that serves as the entrance to
Yep, city office,
city offices.
yeah,
That's new architecture.
yeah,
I mean, it's small, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is new architecture.
okay.
So, the question to ask the architects, you know, does your, are you gonna comply, you think you can comply with standards, and listen, what's the cost to comply with standards? So we got a lot of questions to ask, so that's all I'm saying.
No, yeah, no, I agree with you.
And, I don't know who you talked to, but my idea would be, eventually we could invite, L-chip people here, you know, the head of L-chip here, have this discussion, but I think Seth and I, over the next few weeks or month, I can follow up with a couple of people. For example, the folks in Laconia, Colonial Theater, they got a big L-chip award, and see how difficult that was. And maybe you guys know somebody who got a L-chip award, I don't know. But I'd like to talk to the users to see how difficult it was. I mean, there's no question we're gonna, it's a historic building, we're not gonna mess with anything, but I'm not so sure we need the Secretary of Interior's nose in this, that's what I'm saying.
L-chip is small money anyway, isn't it?
500, yeah,
500,000,
500,
yeah.
but 500 combined with another 500,
Yeah.
it makes it down, you know?
If it doesn't increase the cost,
If it
That's
does-
if,
yeah,
Yeah,
it costs you 6 to get the 5.
it's not, right.
So a couple,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say a couple things. So the other night when the question came up at council, yeah, I probably should have explained it a little bit more. Yes, L-chip is a possibility. Could we get awarded? Probably. It's a pretty, you know, important feature in our downtown. It's contributing. We meet some of the requirements. But, and you hit the nail on the head, so my contact that reached out said, you know, the first step would be doing the preservation plan, so that's an additional cost. Right now, there's not a whole lot of architectural changes on the exterior proposed, it's sort of just that addition. L-chip loves their stuff seen, you know, here we wanted this, you can see it. Usually it's not your eye seeing it, sometimes it's on the side seeing it. I'm 100% on board that the architect that is on the job was chosen as the winner because she has a ton of historic knowledge and has gone through all of these different programs and more that none of us know about, but she knows about because she's done it for 40 years. So I think, you know, to ask to her first, hey, you think this is worth it? What are we gonna change? What are the costs gonna be? Does it ratchet up the cost so much that, yeah, you might be eligible for a grant, but you're gonna have to kick in more money than if you didn't get the grant. So the Chinburg project, this is where I'm like, oh crap, forget about this. So Chinburg's historic credits, National Park Service oversees it. They have been incredibly difficult over the last year. And I've worked, this is my third Chinburg project, one in each community that I've been in, oddly enough. This is the third one that I've not only ever heard that NPS was around or looking or asking questions, because they just weren't before. They looked at a plan and said, cool, you know, you're saving some stuff, it looks good. Now, I spent 2 hours last week with Chinburg guys talking about landscaping because the federal historic preservation folks were not okay with the proposed landscaping. I've never, ever heard them talk about a tree.
Wow.
And they literally ripped apart the entire landscaping plan and dumped it down to about half as many trees, flowers, shrubs, and which is complete bullshit, honestly. And I said, oh, hey, what do you want us to do? Who do you want me to call at the federal level? And he's like, I've already kind of threatened that. It's not getting anywhere. He's like, it's just the way it is now. So they had fought for 2 weeks before. And said, we're at a point that we've kind of met a compromise, but we need the city to be like, sure, that still meets your rules, which it does. You know, it's not as good as what it could have been or what it was going to be, but it meets the rules. But that scares the hell out of me.
They reduced the landscape?
They reduced it by like 50%.
In the middle of this concrete jungle, they
So,
reduced it?
yeah, and this is, So with all the programs about offsetting carbon and climate change and environmental, this and that, and the federal agencies are all trying to integrate that into one another's system so that the NPS knows that, Historic knows that, but they're like, no, you can't have any trees. Back when this was built and operated, there was no trees outside. Yeah, no path, there's probably no pavement,
They're also
Right.
dumping chemicals.
This is all reversed.
Yeah, so it's
No, I go back to doing that.
There's no fish
So we
around
should
it.
put chemicals.
There's no,
It's crazy, they sent me their compromise plan, which still had a bunch of red lines, like from Chinburg back to them, and then purple red lines from NPS back to Chinburg. That's why it's
is
forever.
NPS Washington or NPS Boston or?
It's regional Boston is their contact, and apparently the guy came up and walked around. I'm talking to Paul Goodwin at Chinburg, and Paul's like, hey, Eric's been in this game for a long time, right? Eric's like, I don't think I ever seen anything set step foot on the property.
I agree.
Yeah. And
They're more
it's like,
concerned about architectural.
yeah.
That's another one.
Sites?
So I think, my thought instantly goes to the developer side, is, oh, what do they care? They're saving money, right? They're reducing their landscaping stuff. But, and I kind of said that nicer to all, I'm like, I'm surprised you guys are kind of like, fighting this so much. And he's like, are you kidding me? He's like, our tenants want this stuff. This is why they move here, right? Like, we have a nice outside area. He's like, not only that, but we want to present our project well in the community. And now we're nervous, and I'm like, okay, I hear you. And he's like, we also have to redraw our landscaping plan and order new landscaping stock and hire a different company that might not be, I'm like, oh, so it's a mess. So take that with a grain of salt, a warning that, this is sort of where that's gone to at this point in our
Does this
life.
requirement go away in 4 years after they've gotten all the tax credits?
Yeah, 5, I think. I think it's 5. But
Six
They're
is
not
sad.
touching my gardens in front of city.
I've heard bad things about the program, but that's the worst I've ever heard.
Wow.
So do they have jurisdiction over the landscaping because of the historic tax credits?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's why it's so.
Does that trump the local ordinances of what the city might require for landscaping?
The guy from NPS told the Chinburg guy, yeah, it does. And I think that could be fought. Our rules are pretty open for the downtown. It's like, hey, what makes sense here? Because we want flexibility downtown, right? So there's not a ton of hard and fast rules specific to landscaping. So it'd be a tough one to argue. I think it could be argued legally if we needed to. No, like it needs to go. It
We
needs
don't
to
have
go
percentage
direction.
of green space requirements and.
No, not yet. Those are all things that have to and should be there, but aren't there yet. But then you think about it, you're like, well, it is federal government, and if there's a federal government rule, then it gets a little tricky, and the courts start saying, well, hey, Steve, Trump's locals, federal Trump state, and
Yeah.
it could get messy. I mean, right
But
now,
they're
the
having
plan
a
looks.
negative impact on the whole visual impact of
I've seen a draft of the revised plan, and I'm comfortable with it. It will still look nice. We're losing height. So the main thing is, the work plan's out today. And so they're like, well, that's stupid. Let's have some plans. It's, okay, well, no trees. And they're like, well, we had like 50 trees. And so they thought, well, how about like, instead of a group of 3 trees in a nice, or 4 trees in a nice circle, how about 1 instead, and put it in the center? So, there's still a lot of stuff going on, but
It's really sad.
it's just weird, it's weird.
that's going backwards.
Their
So
fear
much
is,
for our trees in downtown.
their fear is that the landscaping will take away from the architecture. Like your eye will get caught, or there's a filter of, I gotta look through some leaves to see the 60-foot tall building. And urban landscaping is what this is. Urban landscaping doesn't last. Like, it's cyclical, just like a sidewalk, right? Anything downtown gets beat to hell, and that has to get replaced. So same thing with downtown trees. Those trees will be there probably 15 years max, and then they're pulling out so we can put new ones. So they'll never get the height that
Right.
that they could.
Right.
It's-
Wow.
it's-
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
A step back away from that, don't we, aren't we supposed to be scheduling another meeting with the Opera House Board to review the grant programs that they came up with? Wasn't that a takeaway from the last meeting?
Yes,
I believe
I
so.
don't know if it was last meeting, but we did talk about it.
And then I do think, you know, call to Justin to figure out all the grant programs they went for the Colonial.
I got a list of those, but I was gonna call Justin anyway about this issue with L-chip and Parichand Park Service.
Huh.
We do it, Jim and I have a meeting, an electronic meeting with
26.
CDFA regarding the $120,000 application for the Opera House.
Nice.
And if we get that, that'll allow us to spend a little money to answer some of these questions.
Alright, so I'm hearing that it's time to schedule another Opera House board meeting with us, okay? So I can do that, let you know good dates. Alright,
Yeah, that's what I think.
Can we just put them on the agenda for
our next meeting,
our next meeting?
let me see if we
Do
can
we
do
want
that.
a work session?
Yep,
I don't know, it's up to you.
let me see if
We
we
think
can
we're
do
gonna
it.
hear on the capacity
some of them
building in
were-
June.
I wish they could speed it up. But I think they're gonna do it in July like they always do with all the.
Oh, yeah, I think they're pushing everything off now because of that snowstorm and they canceled their
Okay.
regular meeting, so.
But I think in our discussions with the Opera House Board, we can almost assume that the grant's gonna come through.
I don't know, they were very interested.
Yeah, but they invited us, I mean, they were.
Yeah, they
pushing
did.
us.
But it is
Never know.
Yeah.
The fact that you had to apply rather than the city made a weekend difference.
And they always invite us to apply.
Well, now, George Hutton was really excited about this.
All right.
He was even telling me what to say. And George is retiring.
What?
Oh,
Who's gonna take over?
I
Have you
don't
heard?
know, it's I don't know.
he's our friend.
Yeah.
Molly would like the job, but I don't, she doesn't think she's gonna get it.
Huh.
Do you have any insight on that?
I've known he's retired for a while. I don't know
Yeah,
who's
well,
taking over.
I like George.
Yep. Good.
You know, it's
Good.
good.
Anything else? I didn't have anything else.
Did you get, sort of jumping back to like the land bank or working something to buy key properties, did you, the city of Laconia is contemplating buying the Laconia antique?
Yes.
Yeah, Hosmer talked about it last night.
Yeah.
Look, look,
Or yesterday.
what?
The antique place?
Yeah,
Laconia
Like that
Antique
place?
Center or something, it's a big building right downtown, right next to the Colonial Theater.
Yeah.
And the city's, negotiating a purchase of
St.
it.
Clair owns it, it's a antique, multi-dealer
Yeah.
shop, used to be a.
Consignment kind of place now.
No
Yeah.
business in the antiques anymore.
So the pitch, the pitch he gave, it wasn't a pitch, but what he said, yesterday is the Colonial Theater isn't able to take on a lot of large acts because of the backstage, area is not adequate. So they want to expand, and renovate that connection, and then renovate the city, renovate all the storefronts. And most likely, like they did, I think at the Colonial, break it up into condos and sell them off. But
And they have a restaurant in the front of that building, and
I
then
need to meet with Kurt.
a theater in the back.
So, the retail units that are part of the Colonial Theater building,
yeah,
what was, have those all been sold?
I don't know if I'm not sure. The residential units are condos.
And that's,
I'm
what's his name?
Yeah, Rusty.
That's your place.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bought two, he didn't buy all of them.
No,
Some of them
he
are
just
private.
bought two.
Oh, I thought he.
No, they're not rentals, they're condos, legit condos. The retail storefronts, I think, was purchased by, an investor, and they're all owned by the same person, but I do not know for sure. I do not think those businesses own their units.
Okay, I got you.
However, those businesses that are in there, their owners do live in Laconia. So it's another example of localism.
Yeah,
But the plan, Hosmer said it, we're buying the building to fulfill this need for the colonial to get different acts, because acts support everyone.
Sounds familiar.
And he did say, he's like, if Laconia chooses to do this, we will make money on the rehab and the reselling of the properties, to help our taxpayers.
how come they be guaranteed that? Because they just see the economy improving that much values, or are they buying that taxing?
No, he believes exactly like kind of what IFA did,
You know,
right? Like, once you do the fit and finish, Laconia's on a roll, they're seeing a need, they believe wholeheartedly that it will happen.
I'm glad to hear that.
There's pushback on the price. I think Charlie is being overly compensated because of his political connections.
Yeah, there's pushback on the price, and there's,
Nicely put, Jim.
That was very PC.
there's,
You know Charlie's feedback?
there's some that think, communities shouldn't be developing, right, it's not their business, and,
Yeah,
but,
it's all about risk and how much risk you want to take.
right.
It's an intro stuff though, like you used for the colonial example, I just looked it up on their GIS mapping system. It has multiple tax map plot numbers on it, so I do think it's been conduized that's.
It's finalized by rented out.
I think Scott Aberg bought a couple of these.
Yeah, there was a group, right, that were nervous about the investment, and Rusty and Scott Everett went in as a show of good faith to buy them early, to make sure that the project succeeded. But I mean, like, the interim step, right, in Franklin is still required. Like, that sale on Dan's Pharmacy is still pending. Why? Because of the septic issue. Right? Nobody wants to fix the $25,000 septic system. Right?
Sewer system.
Sewer system, thank you. The sewer connection under the sidewalk.
It's only 25,000.
I
in? Sewers usually a lot more than 25,000.
Yeah,
Or it's just a stuff.
that's just,
Stuff, it's just
Oh, it's
service
connection.
There's
Service.
Oh, okay, I thought we were talking about a pump station.
no, but it would require like, cutting open the sidewalk and, all that stuff.
Yep.
The building next to, the one next to the Regal, so, water's coming off of 337, right, and it's going in that tiny 6-inch alley, draining down to the property next door, and the sill plate is gone. Right, nobody wants to buy that.
which building is this?
337 is the 1-story, 2-story.
It goes back deep?
Yeah.
If they put the facade on?
Yes.
Okay,
And then water runs off of that building,
yeah,
and there's an alleyway that's this big
Yeah.
between the two properties, and the water goes straight down, and it's rotted out, the building to the right. The sill plate is almost entirely gone, has no structural value.
if I'm looking at that building, to the right is the theater, isn't it?
No, to the left is the theater.
Yes. And the sill plate on that building itself is rotted, isn't it?
On the theater, probably.
No.
On
Sill plate
337?
On 337.
I don't know, but I would imagine. But, I mean, that's why From State Life was successful, that's why the bank was successful. And so
Another round?
yeah, another round of the facade improvement program or this line of credit concept, right? There has to be an interim owner to get a better tenant.
Yep. We worked with the city of Claremont, and they have a whole development, a fully.
Yeah.
But the way they acquired those buildings downtown, I mean, those are foreclosure taxes.
Right.
It's not like they purchased some of those buildings.
Right.
But I mean, we've held them, but I mean, those buildings have been vacant for 20, 30 years. So that's the focus there, but the way they have done it is, so on the community music school, which is downtown, they have kept ownership of that building. They are leasing it to the operator, and the operator is paying property taxes, even though the city's continues to be technically the owner. So they have somehow, which is a bit unusual to me, like if the city is the owner, how are you collecting property taxes?
It's a RSA actually, so I can't.
Yeah, so, but that was new news to me, but it is
It's voluntary.
possible.
Anybody, any
Yeah.
nonprofit or
It's
municipality
regulatory.
It is
can,
regulatory?
create a payment
The
limit.
parking lots we leased, they have to pay the underlying taxes because I'm leasing to a for-profit organization. It is an RSA.
Got it.
Yes, yep,
Yeah, it's kind of like a triple net lease.
But,
kinda is.
but what he's saying is is a municipal school a
Nonprofit,
nonprofit? You can, they can, the
They
city
can
is the
choose.
owner,
yeah.
as a condition of that, can require a pilot. They're probably paying just the city portions of the tax.
Yeah. But I'm not
Correct.
particular project with the city nonprofit.
That's right, Creighton does have an actual redevelopment.
They do.
So
And is it working? I mean, regardless of how they got it?
it is working. Yeah, they've run into a little trickiness lately, but it's been
It was
working.
sort of dormant for a long time.
It's been working.
10 years, it's really gotten involved.
Yeah.
They also want the industrial park, right?
We did, yeah. We did for that particular project. So, but that's like
But grants or loans?
a gap. That's a gap. piece for them, I believe. They also, got a tremendous amount of money from CDFA and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Anything else? Good,
I'm meeting with
right on
Lebanon-
time.
I'm meeting with Lebanon this afternoon.
Okay.
Marty begged off.
I didn't beg,
I
you
think
offered
that you
Yes.
offered, I
Yeah.
recall
Yeah.
that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Marty begged off.
We have, Marty has witnesses.
I don't have friends that
I'm more your friend now.
We'll put that on the agenda for next time.
This is on
All
the
right,
free co-op.
so,
No,
no, this is on HUD.
Oh, on HUD, yeah.
Okay, then we're adjourned, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Buy y'all a cup of coffee?
Am I what? Yeah.
Buy y'all a cup of coffee?
Oh, sure, because that's what I need, more coffee.